Time magazine has called Bobby Short the very symbol of elegance, style, and wit. The Washington Post has termed him the premier cabaret performer in America. Now, his admirers include such internationally known celebrities as Jacqueline Onassis, Beverly Sills, and the Reagans. And New Yorkers flock to Cafe Carlyle to hear him perform such delightful repertoire of popular American songs by such composers as George Gershwin, Irving Berlin, Cole Porter, and Jerome Kern. Now, his Charlie Perfume television commercial for Revlon, as well as his appearances on Roots 2 and Love Boat, has made his name a household word, and we're very fortunate to have him leave the New York busy scene to come down to the quiet pace of Delaware and to do a very special three-part program at the Grand Opera House in Wilmington called The American Popular Song. Bobby, welcome.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here, Bob.
Bobby, can you tell us about the special three-part program you're going to be doing?
It's a kind of celebration of the American popular song, and we've selected three composers, I should say, two writing teams and one composer. The first composer is Cole Porter, and the second group would be Rodgers and Hart, then the Gershwins, George and Ira, who wrote music and words. Mm-hmm. And in each program, the music will be delineated by myself and other performers. For my evening, the Cole Porter evening, the kickoff evening that is, I'm helped along by a brilliant group called the Empire Brass Quintet. They'll be playing arrangements of Cole Porter songs for brass instruments. And then on subsequent evenings, we'll have songs of Rodgers and Hart sung by Carmen McRae and the George Shearing Quintet. And then the final evening we have George Gershwin's music represented by Sarah Vaughan, and we're going to have her trio and my trio and the fine jazz trumpeter Clark Terry.
Mm-hmm. Now let me make sure I have those dates correct for the public. It's the October 22, you'll be with the Empire Brass Quintet?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. And January 28th, you'll be with Sarah Vaughan?
I believe so,
okay.
Yes.
And March 31st with George Shearing Duo.
That's correct.
And Carmen McRae Trio.
Right, and Clark Terry, don't forget Clark Terry.
Okay, we can't do that. Now, you know, you've been called the keeper of culture as far as the American popular song goes. Do you feel this is an obligation to keep alive the spirit of the American song?
Well, I think for my part I've done almost a lifetime of that kind of work, and there are many people around who are younger than I who will take the torch, don't you think?
I would think so. Now, you know, you were always influenced by Gershwin and Porter, would you say?
Yes, indeed.
Who were your heroes when you were growing up?
Well, Gershwin and Porter and Duke Ellington and Jimmy Lunsford and Richard Rodgers, Noël Coward when I was in my teens, of course.
Mm-hmm. Now, as a young black performer growing up, was it hard to break into the showbiz scene?
In the show business, never. It was hard to break into certain aspects of it, certain avenues of it. But saloons have been the easiest way to break into show business all along, I believe. Mm-hmm. Anybody can go into a saloon, and from there, he's on his own.
Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, I understand you're writing a book called Saloon, and in fact, you call yourself a saloon singer, is that correct?
That's right.
Uh-huh. What's this book all about?
The book is autobiographical, Bob, and it's going to be a series of vignettes and narrations about various saloons in which I performed over the last 35 years, 40 years.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about this Charlie commercial that you became famous about? Does it make it tough for you to walk down the street now?
Well, it's not tough, but there's sometimes very attractive obstacles in the way.
I see.
And so you have to take the time to smile and be nice. Mm-hmm. When I signed the do that, I was aware of all that, and so it didn't deter me. I went ahead and did it, and I'm glad I did it.
Mm-hmm. Now, are you planning more television exposure?
More?
Yes.
I don't know. Television for me comes and goes. I've just finished in Hollywood recording the theme song for a series called Heart to Heart, which stars Robert Wagner.
Oh, yes.
And I went in to record Chicago for their Chicago segment, which comes up in the next few weeks. But I won't be seen on that show. Mm-hmm. Just heard.
Now, New York, of course, has its own special charm. Do you enjoy getting out to such areas as Wilmington? Why come to the Grand Opera House? I mean, you certainly have everything you'd need in New York City.
Well, isn't the Grand Opera House a landmark building in Wilmington?
Certainly it is.
Well, that, of course, interests me, and I think it's certainly worth saving. And I think to perform in a house with a history like it has is is a great honor.
Now, how about just reaching out to the hinterland, as it is, to an area such as Wilmington? Do you feel a need or an urge or a desire to play such areas as Wilmington?
Well, I have always traveled, Bob. I've never confined myself to New York, as performers are often apt to do. I've always moved around the country. We've just had 2.5 weeks in Southern California. Before then, I was in Marin County near San Francisco. And earlier this summer, I had a concert in Oakville for the Mondavi wine people, which was outdoors. I played with the San Francisco Symphony in July, and I was before then with the Atlanta Symphony, and before then with the Columbus, Ohio Symphony. And so you see, I travel quite a lot.
You keep a busy schedule. Do you ever give yourself free time to relax?
Well, I'm trying that right through here because my Carlisle schedule has been reduced to give me that kind of time, and I go back there December 1st. So between then and now, I have some spare moments.
What do you do in your free time to relax?
Well, I look around my house, and I sit in my house, and I play my records, and I arrange things that have been in disarray for a long, long time, and I see my friends. I go to the theater to see things like Amadeus, which you've just seen, apparently.
Yes.
And I go to the opera, and I have dinner parties at home, and I go out, and it's a kind of a catching up period for me.
Now, you indicated you listen to your record collection. I'm curious who you listen to when you put your records on.
Well, I still play a lot of Art Tatum recordings, the great blind pianist, and I'm very, very much stuck on Duke Ellington's sound still after all these years. And I have piles of recordings of Maria Callas I've not had a chance even to break the seal on. And all those things take time.
Certainly do. Well, you know, you're known as sort of the symbol of elegance, the high society, sophisticate, natty dresser, ageless song stylist and all that. Doesn't that become a burden for you, something that you have to live up to all the time?
If you take it seriously, of course it does. I don't take it very seriously. I dress to please myself and to please my audience most of the time. I think that an audience deserves more than just the raw individual. It's a sign of respect to put on well-pressed, clean clothes for them, and why not do that?
Now, you're a fixture in Cafe Carlisle. Tell us about the place in New York City.
Well, it's deceptively small, first of all. It only seats 90 people. We serve a dinner of sorts there and a supper of sorts, and it's the last bastion of that kind of action in New York City. It's elegant, it's expensive, and I've often said that when people walk through the front door, a kind of mantle of royalty falls upon their shoulders, and they behave with their pinkies out, and sometimes rather nastily, because they think they're privileged to be there. The Carlisle has changed, like many places in New York have. It's no longer quite so, the word I guess is prohibitive as it used to be, and it's achieved a lot of international recognition in the last few years.
Now, would you call it a high-class saloon?
Well, they're all saloons, I think, because they all sell hooch, and I'm in there and playing for the hooch drinkers, and that's what makes me a saloon singer.
Do you want your epitaph to read, "He was a high-class saloon singer of the best sort"?
Well, they can just say he's a saloon singer. Suit me fine.
And when you got started, what was your circuit when you were first starting out?
Well, I got started in my hometown on the heels of the in the midst of the Depression, on the heels of Prohibition, and the goings in my hometown in the Midwest were not exactly elegant. I played in some rather raunchy old bars around town, but I made a lot of money. I was a very business-like kid, and so I got lots of money for school books and for clothes, and helped my mama along, and I stayed out late and learned too much at an early age, but I got through school somehow.
And now, of course, you're traveling throughout the United States, and you'll be performing at our Grand. Have you had a chance to see the facility? I
have indeed. I saw the show. I saw the house early today, just before lunch. It's very, very pretty house. You know, I was in Venice just a few weeks ago, and I got inside the Fenice Theater, and I'd heard about it for years, and it is absolutely a jewel. And I think the Grand Opera House, dimension-wise, is about the same. The ceiling isn't quite so high, but it's about the same size, and it's an ideal house for the performer. And I would think ideal in the same way for the for the audience.
Mm-hmm. Well, I recall George Benson saying in the newspaper when he performed here that he thought the acoustics were as good as any place he'd ever performed, and I hope you'll feel the same way when you're performing.
I'm sure they are. The house is over 100 years old now, I'm told.
Yes.
It's been refurbished beautifully, and I'm looking forward to playing in it.
Well, we're glad to have you here. Again, you viewers can see Bobby Short on October 22 with the Empire Brass Quintet, on January 28th with Sarah Vaughan, and on March 31st with George Shearing Duo, Carmen McRae Trio, and who was it? The other one?
Clark Terry, who plays the
Clark Terry.
trumpet.
Yes. And thank you very much for coming on our show.